Hi everyone, welcome to day one of the Optimal Sleep Challenge. I'm so excited about the challenge. I've been working on it for a few weeks and I get excited when I'm able to teach something that I know. And so my intention with this challenge is just for you to be able to take something away, something small, knowing that our first step in anything we want to improve is change, and just something small like creating a bedtime routine. And how can that actually help you improve your sleep? So, day one. Day one, we're going to talk about choosing the perfect bedtime hour. And I chose this for the topic of day one because we don't always know what time should we go to bed. So just in saying that, today I'm going to give you some knowledge, and with that knowledge is going to empower you in order to be able to choose the bedtime that works best for you, because we all have a different bedtime. I'm not going to give you a specific bedtime. I'm just going to teach you how to calculate it. And I'm going to give you the science behind it of why you would calculate it. So let's start to talk about the sleep science. When I learned the sleep science, this really made a big change in my sleep. And I know when I teach this or I do presentations and people go, oh, I didn't really know why I needed sleep so much. Like, we know we need sleep, but we don't really know. There's a difference between knowing, like cognitively, and like knowing in our body why we need sleep. And once we really know, we understand the science, it makes it easier then for us to choose a bedtime and to go to sleep. So we're going to start talking about the sleep cycles and the sleep stages within a cycle. So a sleep cycle lasts about 90 minutes in a night. And during a sleep cycle, we actually go through 4 different stages. So we should probably get 5 sleep cycles in a night would be ideal. And so if each sleep cycle is 90 minutes, your 5 of them will give you 7.5 hours. And if you look at what the CDC recommends, between 7 to 9 hours of sleep, if we go with 7.5 hours, that's 5 sleep cycles. And you could add a 6th sleep cycle if you wanted more sleep. But I recommend 5, because then at least we know we're getting enough sleep. So many people only sleep 5 or 6 hours and think that that's enough sleep. But when I go through the stages, you'll understand why it's important to get at least 5. So within that one sleep cycle, that's 90 minutes, there's 4 stages. So stage 1 is really where we fall asleep. We don't really remember stage 1 because we go from awake to asleep. That usually happens in the beginning of the night because that's when we're falling asleep. But stage 1 can happen again when we wake up in the middle of the night to go use the washroom. So that's stage 1. Stage 2 is our light sleep. So that's 40 to 50% of the night. Not much happens in stage 2. But stage 3, 4, they're together, where your physical body restores itself. That's where your growth hormone are produced, and that's where your physical body restores itself. So I know I'm going to repeat that, but your physical body during stage 3 and 4 is actually restoring itself. The REM sleep. So we hear a lot about REM sleep. One thing I hear a lot about REM sleep is that's where dreams happen. But REM sleep is also where your mental restoration happens, okay? So knowing that mentally our brain is being restored during REM sleep, it's important to try to get some REM sleep. So it goes from stage 1 to 3, 4, and then into REM sleep. And then it goes back to 3, 4, and then back to 1, 2, 3, 4, REM sleep, 3, 4. That's kind of the cycle that it does. And also during REM sleep, it's where your short-term memory moves into your long-term memory. So if you're trying to study for school or something, or you're learning a new job and you're really tired, if you get your REM sleep, then you'll be able to process the new job better, or what you're studying better. So now the interesting fact, like what really makes a difference in this, is that your stage 3, 4 happens in the beginning of the night. So your physical restoration happens in the beginning of the night, and your REM sleep, where it's all your mental restoration, happens towards the end of the night. I had a client that actually had a watch that measured that while she slept, and she sent me a few pictures showing that REM sleep is actually towards the end of the night. So if you only sleep 5 hours, you've lost that last sleep cycle that has the most REM sleep that helps you restore your brain. And so a lot of times people say, oh, I walked into a room and I forgot what I was looking for. Well, that's because you're not having enough mental restoration. Or in my case, when I was very sleep deprived, there's things I would do that I just forgot I had done. Like one day I didn't know where I parked my car at work because I was so mentally deprived of sleep. I never got into REM sleep, so my brain wasn't able to regenerate itself to be able to learn. So That's what I wanted you to understand, the science behind it, so that now when we think of choosing the perfect bedtime hour, how are we going to calculate that? So if 5 sleep cycles is 7.5 hours, I give myself 8 hours in bed because depending on how long it's going to take me to fall asleep, and if my sleep cycle happens to be like a little bit more than that hour and a half each, right? So if you do 8 hours, what time do you need to wake up? So that's step number one. What time does your alarm wake you up in the morning? And from there, calculate 8 hours back. And that's the time that should be your lights out. So for me, I like to get up at 5. I know, crazy. Not everybody likes to get up at 5, but for me, from 5 to 8 is like my morning 3 hours of power hour. And so, in order for me to wake up at 5, I go to bed at 9. So, at 9 o'clock is my lights out. For some people, that's way too early. So, but if you don't have to wake up till 6, then that means it's 10 o'clock. If you don't have to wake up till 7, then you can stay lights out being 11 p.m. So, you choose what is the time you need to wake up and then calculate 8 hours back. I'd love for you to post a comment in the group letting me know what time you actually are going to set your lights out. And also, just curious, what did you think about the sleep stages and sleep cycles? And does that understanding, like knowledge is power, right? So, with this knowledge, does that change your idea or your thoughts on how long you should stay in bed? So that's it for day one. These videos aren't going to be very long. I'm hoping 10 minutes max a day because I just want you now to go back and sit with this and go, okay, what time am I going to set for my bedtime hour? So then tomorrow we'll go into more details on how to keep continuing to create our bedtime routine. Like I say all the time, like we do it for our children. We make sure our children have a scheduled bedtime routine. And when they know like they're gonna have their bath, they're gonna have their bottle or their bedtime snack, and then they're gonna have a book, then they go to bed, their body and their mind knows, okay, now it's time to go to sleep and shut down. Why don't we do that for us as well? And that's the whole purpose of creating a bedtime routine, is so we can teach our mind and our body when it's time to go to bed. And once you do this long enough, and your brain just automatically knows. So looking forward to the next 4 days where we're going to learn more. Any comments? I'd love to hear it in the chat. Thanks. Bye. See you tomorrow.